Rick, good afternoon. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, doing great, MJ. Great hearing from you as always.
Likewise, buddy. So good to see you. Happy Friday.
Yeah,
I know you're busy, a busy man. So thank you for making the time. I truly appreciate it.
sure.
And so I'm with Rick Melville, producing sales manager at Atlantic Bay Mortgage Group here in Charlotte, North Carolina. How's the weather in Charlotte today?
Weather in Charlotte's crisp, mid 40s, sunshine. Things are turning our way. Spring will be here like that.
I love it, man. I'm here in Aruba, and it's so hot that my ears are burning. So on fire down here, but be back to Charlotte in no time. So let's jump into it. Why'd you choose to become a mortgage lender, Rick? Out of all the professions in the world, what made you make that decision?
So I was working for a big bank when I lived out west. I was living in Colorado, and we were putting stuff together to in the commercial real estate space, and you never really got to finish anything. So you'd get shopping centers that you had to foreclose on and office buildings, and it just seemed really impersonal. And I was going to grad school at night. I call it the Midnight MBA, and was talking to a guy in one of my finance classes, and we were talking about how I facilitated a 40,000 square foot office building sale from our portfolio to a nonprofit that really needed it.
Mhm.
And he's like, "Well, how'd that make you feel?" And I was like, "Well, it took 2 years to close, and I think I got a $300 bonus, and nobody really seemed to care."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, man, I'm a mortgage broker. Come work for me. I'll show you how we're changing people's lives." And I was like, "What mortgage broker? What the heck are
What
you
is that?
talking about?"
Yeah.
So I went to go work for him. His name also was Matt, and super guy. And then he sold his business to his partner. I started my own, and then I've been doing this for quite a long time, about 26 years in different areas of expertise, different parts of the country, and it's kind of cool.
You've been at it for a long time, man. So you've seen a lot of change, I'm sure. What across that span of time compared to now? I mean, how do you describe the current real estate market, and how have you and your team adapted to the current environment?
Yeah. So the current environment, in some respects, is it's kind of frenzied like we saw in 2006, 7, 8, but it's very different from that environment too.
Mhm.
And by that, I mean inventory is really tight.
Mhm.
I saw a statistic yesterday that said nationwide there were 386,000 homes for sale in a country with 330 to 340 million people.
Wow.
So that's crazy. That's less than a 2 month supply nationwide.
Sure.
The Charlotte market, of course, is similar to that, but I think, quite frankly, even has a smaller available supply of homes. So that's kind of wild. What's really interesting about this is there's a demographic component that not a lot of people understand. There are so many people that are between the ages of 25 and 35. Just it's a sort of a baby boomlet, if
Hmm.
you will, that have sort of delayed household formation through recessions. And now they're forming households, getting married, living together, having children, doing all kinds of that stuff that comes along with as you're approaching your 30th birthday. And just from a sheer volume of people standpoint, there's a massive demand for housing.
Hmm.
So, in a lot of respects, that's very cool. But in some respects, it's really uncool because if inventory is tight and interest rates are right around 3% or maybe a touch below, depending on the day, boy, leverage is great. You can really afford more house. You just got to find the house that you can buy
Right.
where they're going to accept your offer. So you asked how we adapted. Well, we got tired of our clients continually writing offers and not being successful
Hmm.
and winning the offer, multiple offer situations.
Hmm.
So we take their files now to help them and to help their realtors, and we have them fully underwritten up front. So you can take a borrower's offer or buyer's offer and go into a 10 offer situation. And some of those might be cash. They're generally going to be lower on the lower end of the spectrum. Everybody else is going to be pre-qualified or pre-approved. Now you can go in literally with like the Willy Wonka golden ticket. You can say, bang, here's my offer. My client's loan is approved. Hey, the only thing we got to talk about is inspections, the appraisal, and the title. I mean, if a listing agent doesn't have clean title, they don't know what they're doing. Just about every house should have been pre-inspected anyway prior to listing.
Mhm.
And the appraisal really is just an independent third party going in saying, you know what, geez, 350 is the number. Seems to make sense. So it gives you as a realtor a lot of power for your buyers. It's really kind of cool when they've got the golden ticket. And we've seen success over and over again every month where our clients were writing 8 to 9 offers and getting nowhere. And now they do 1, 2, maybe 3, and bang, they're in. So it kind of goes back to helping people change their lives for a really good outcome. It's kind of fun, you know? Not that I'm hyper competitive, but I am competitive and I like my clients to win. So that makes me feel good, you know?
I love it. And I can't overemphasize enough the power behind that full approval up front. You know, as an agent, I've won a few and I've lost a few recently in this crazy market. And that's just uber powerful. You're right. I think inventory here locally is about a month and a half as compared to 2 months, so even lower in the Charlotte market. And I saw recently going into this year, Charlotte's going to be number 3 in the country in real estate again. So,
Wow. I hadn't seen that. So I mean, I feel that, but I didn't
mhm.
have any statistical backing for that. So I'm glad that my feel is spot on.
Yeah, I believe the top 2 are in California, maybe Sacramento and San Jose, I think. So yeah,
Wild.
another
Just wild
cranking
times.
year. So across all these years, Rick, what's the most memorable experience you've had so far?
Well, I've got a whole bunch of kind of crazy real estate stories as everyone does. But some of the best, I guess the best feel good stories for me very often are the first time home buyer or the move up buyer who just had the second or third baby.
Mhm.
And so they're selling their starter home and moving up into the family home. And I love going to closings. Can't wait till we can go again.
Mhm.
And just seeing, mom and dad with a kid or two, and very often one on the way. And they're a little stressed out because, of course, they're balancing the sale of a house and a kid or two, and usually one on the way, but they're buying the family home. That just makes me feel great because I remember doing that. My wife and I have kids that are 21 and 26 now, so we're a little bit past that stage. So it just makes me feel kind of happy to help people start their lives like that. And then first-time home buyers and newlyweds, that's always a great feeling. Just they're so excited, and I can remember buying my first home. I think I was 24 years old, and I bought something in a transitional neighborhood in Denver with a bond program loan. I think I literally had 2 nickels to scrape together
Mhm.
to buy the dang thing, but I was just beaming with pride, and so that always conveys with me. You know what I mean? I get a big
Sure.
kick out of that stuff.
You're 1,000% correct, man. It's hard not to take on the feelings that our clients have at closing days. It's a fantastic feeling to hit the finish line and cross it, and that happens almost every day for us. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it really
Um,
is.
Anything really odd stand out? Any odd
Um,
experiences?
I wouldn't say odd. What I will say is one of the challenges we run into sometimes with people who have bought 3 or 4 homes
Mhm.
throughout their lives is, back in the day, 2005, 6, 7, our industry was writing, very limited documentation loans. There were even no doc loans. Then, of course, the financial crisis hit, and we had to document everything. I used to joke and say, "All right, now we have all your paper documents. The nurse will be by soon to draw the blood." And it's never gotten that bad, of course. That was a joke, but
Sure.
we see the kind of documentation requirements kind of get expanded and shrink as the market shifts. And with the current COVID environment, man, we're back to documenting everything, which can sometimes cause some frustration for some folks that have done this 3 or 4 times. And I will tell you that, we don't really care to see last year's tax returns, but sometimes we have to, as an example. So that's something that we're seeing as we're in the COVID environment. Even though we're hopefully with vaccines coming out of it, because of the economic impacts of the disease, we have to verify employment more thoroughly, assets, et cetera. So I guess to kind of go ring around the rosy to get to the point, we need a little more documentation now than we did even 2 or 3 years ago. So one of the things, though, that's great about that is if we get all that stuff, we're way ahead of everybody else.
Right.
So I explain that to people over and over again, and most people get it. Just I like to put that out there so folks don't think it's personal. Buying a home is personal, but me asking for your W-2s, it ain't personal, dude.
Yeah.
Still got to have them.
Yeah. I think setting expectations up front, as you do so well, is always key.
Yeah.
Especially in a personal experience like buying a home. 1,000% correct. What are some of your favorite things to do in the neighborhood? Restaurants, or just favorite activities?
Yeah. So, my wife and I, as our kids got older, moved out of our big old South Charlotte home and kind of jumped across the border to a smaller place in Fort Mill, South Carolina. So I live in this neighborhood that's next to the Catawba River. So I'm doing stuff that I never really did before. Like I get to hike trails next to the river and go kayaking and, go fishing, which I kind of never did. So that's kind of cool. And, you may know this, I'm a big bike riding guy. We have a big charity event coming up in July, the 24 Foundations, 24 Hours of Booty. So I like to get people involved in that. And after a good bike ride, I generally do like to go stop at a pub and have a good beer that's been made there. So those are the kinds of things my wife and I do for fun.
I love it. Got to get that reward after a hard bike ride. And you're certainly very active in the community and love to give back, and it shows. And what are some of your pet peeves personally?
Pet peeves personally, not listening. And as a dude, I can tell you I've been guilty of that. I've been married for 30 years, and I'm sure my wife would tell you that I've been guilty of it more than a few times. But, both personally, professionally, we always like to operate in full transparency.
Sure.
And when clients say, we never talked about that, or a friend or a neighbor says, we never talked about that. I'm like, actually, we did, because I actually took notes when we talked on the 14th, and we went over this. And it's okay that you don't remember that. That's cool. But we specifically went over these things. And generally people are like, oh, yeah. So I think that stems from years ago when I was working for a company and was helping build a software platform. And I had a great idea and shared that with somebody in the business. And then about a week and a half later, standing in the same spot, he turned to me and said, I was out driving the other day and I had this great idea. And I was like, we just talked about that like in this exact same spot 10 days ago. No, I just thought about that when I was driving today. So anyway, so the not listening thing kind of rubs me sometimes. I get over it.
I love the transparency and you being candid. I think there's so many moving pieces in these transactions in real estate. It's good that we document as much as we can so that we can reference back to those conversations and rehash things we talked about. That's very helpful.
Yeah, I never want to make it I told you so.
No,
that's not the goal.
No.
But the goal is to systematically do the same thing.
Sure.
50 times a month. So everybody has the same great experience. So that, and obviously you can shift for different circumstances for clients. But man, if we can do the same thing over and over and over again and we get great outcomes, it's fun. It's easier. The clients know what to expect. Everything moves smoothly. I have this kind of joke, and I tell people this all the time, and I actually do it on video. I'm like, hey, we want your closing to go smooth as Jif creamy peanut butter.
Good, I love that. That's awesome. That's fantastic. And I also think, if not mistaken, when things don't go perfectly, you take the time to stop and do a little analysis, maybe a quick postmortem as to what could have gone better, and you improve processes on the fly. Is that?
Yeah, we literally, we do it. We call it a bad loan postmortem. So we're not perfect, and sometimes processes aren't perfect, and sometimes we just didn't kind of see around a corner for a problem that occurred, and we're like, wow, I've been doing this a long time. Every once in a while, something will pop up, and I'm like, I've never heard of that, never saw that, never thought about it. So when a loan goes bad, my team and I literally get in a room. I guess now we get into a Zoom room, and we tell them, hey, egos aside, no finger pointing. What did we do that didn't work here? And we go through it and say, geez, we never really thought about this. Well, that's another thing for the checklist, another reminder for the client, another reminder for the closing attorney or the insurance agent or whoever it was. Here's a communication point with underwriting that we now can do before we send the file in. So simple things like that. We're not afraid to pull it apart and say, what did we do that could have been done better? Because quite frankly, I mean, it's funny. Bill Gates said something I read the other day. He said, I want to hire lazy people only because they're going to find ways to do things more easily, simpler. And I wouldn't say we're lazy, but we never want to repeat mistakes. And we always want to find an easier, simpler way to make things happen and flow. So that's a huge part of what I do every day is like, how can we make this easier and simpler and, avoid efficient problems,
Yeah, the word efficient comes to mind. Always ways to improve there.
Yeah.
But I know you guys do an amazing job. What are your greatest challenges in the business as a whole?
So greatest challenge right now is we're growing our team, and we're having a challenge just talking to loan officers to join the team. There are some folks in our industry that are relatively new that don't know what they don't know. And so they're a little hesitant to come on board. So that's one of our challenges is growth, because we have capacity still, but we have these systems in place where we can really grow and help people. Let's see, we talk about helping our clients. One of the things I'm doing also is helping loan officers grow in their careers. So we've got some stuff in place that can take, a loan officer that does $10 to $15 million a year, which is, good business, and turn that into 35 or 45 within like 18 months. So that's kind of cool. And plus, as I'm an old industry veteran guy, that again makes me feel good that I helped somebody else grow their career. You're
not old, you're wise. You're a fantastic mentor. You said 26 years, I believe. That's a wealth of experience and knowledge. And Rick, I won't keep you much longer. I really appreciate you joining me today. And I can tell everyone firsthand that Rick's just a wealth of information. He's patient. He's kind, knowledgeable. Just he'll guide you through every step of the way. He'll send you a video text with an update as to where things stand throughout the process. And it's a stressful process, or can be, to buy, and just his even-keeled nature, and it really goes a long ways with folks. And glad to have you as a partner in my business, Rick. And if you guys want to reach Rick, please do so at 704-299-1025 or www.rickmelville.com. And Rick, thanks again, man.
Sure.
You're swamped.
I know that rickmelville.com, and the joke is even I can't forget my own name.
That's pretty simple.
Thank you for your time, MJ. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy.
And let's help a bunch of people this year, okay?
Let's do it. Enjoy your day and the weekend, buddy. Talk soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.